probably imagined what the smartest person in a room would look like. Popular culture has sold us a very specific stereotype. Someone who is extremely confident, loudly solving complex problems, arrogantly dictating rules, and making sure everyone around is well aware of their genius intellect. But the teachings of the Sensei show us a completely different reality. On the path of self-knowledge and mental development, true genius makes no noise. It is quiet, profound, and often invisible to the untrained eye. Many of the actual behavioral traits found in people with an extremely high IQ look nothing like what most people associate with intelligence. Some of them, in fact, seem like the exact opposite. The Sensei explains that a mind far above average doesn't just serve to accumulate data or process numbers faster. It completely changes the way an individual experiences the world.
This distinct internal machinery manifests through subtle behaviors that are frequently misunderstood by the average person. If you have always felt that you operate at a different frequency, or if you seek to understand the true meaning of mental mastery, the Sensei invites you to analyze the 7 fundamental characteristics associated with a high-level mind. 1. Observing far more than talking. In the school of life, the Sensei always teaches us to observe before taking action. In meetings, debates, or social gatherings, the smartest person is usually the one who spends most of the time in silence. High IQ individuals tend to default to an observant posture before making any intervention. They listen to what is being said, but they also decode what is left unspoken. They track social dynamics, read between the lines, analyze the real tensions in the room, and capture the true core of the discussion beneath the surface. The Sensei explains that this flood of data requires time to be processed. They are not slow to speak because of slow processing. Rather, they are gathering and cataloging a massive volume of information before formulating a response that is truly precise, surgical, and relevant. 2. The comfort in saying, "I don't know." While common sense associates intelligence with unshakable self-confidence and ready-made answers for everything, the Sensei reminds us that the true wise person recognizes the limits of their own mind. People with a very high IQ are the first to admit when they do not know something, and they do it genuinely, not as a social performance of false modesty. The Sensei clarifies that a person of limited knowledge is often overconfident because they cannot see the sheer complexity of what they ignore. In contrast, the highly intelligent individual intimately understands the branches and depths of any domain. They have investigated enough to see that every single answer opens the door to dozens of new questions and exceptions. Therefore, when a high IQ person says, "I don't know," the Sensei views it not as hesitation or ignorance, but as a signature of precision and maturity. Absolute certainty in the face of complex scenarios almost never lives in the mind of the smartest person in the room. 3. The procrastination of complexity. This is a trait that usually generates a massive amount of frustration and guilt for those who experience it, and it is something the Sensei frequently helps his students overcome. People with high cognitive capability often face great difficulties when trying to begin the projects that hold the greatest personal meaning for them. Simple, low-stakes, everyday tasks are completed with ease, but the work that could genuinely showcase their full potential seems to live permanently at the edge of starting. The Sensei clarifies that this behavior has nothing to do with laziness, but with a profound awareness of complexity. Before even taking the first step, the high IQ brain has already comprehended the full scope of the idealized project. It anticipates every structural flaw, every potential failure, and the exact distance between the perfect vision held in the mind and the real-world execution. The Sensei reminds us that procrastination in these cases is born from a fear of the gap between internal standards of excellence and external output. It is the presence of too much care and the fear of failing to honor one's own vision that paralyzes the beginning. 4. Solitude as fuel, not isolation. The Sensei's lesson regarding the privacy of a brilliant mind focuses heavily on solitude. Highly intelligent people spend a significant amount of time alone, not out of shyness or because they dislike others. The reason is purely related to mental architecture and strategy. The Sensei observes that the region of the brain responsible for complex reasoning, planning, and deep reflection functions much more effectively in quiet environments without external distractions. While most people seek validation and energy through frequent social interactions, the Sensei notes that high IQ individuals feel their cognitive energy drain rapidly in those settings. This happens because their minds are constantly analyzing every microexpression, every tone of voice, and every hidden dynamic in the room. The Sensei teaches us that for these individuals, silence is not isolation. It is the oxygen that allows the mind to operate at full capacity, turning withdrawal into fuel for both the soul and the intellect. 5. Rigorous self-doubt and persistent criticism. Contrary to what human pride suggests, the top of the intelligence scale is a place filled with internal uncertainty. Individuals with extreme intelligence experience a degree of self-criticism and doubt that the people around them would find hard to believe. They question their own capabilities in a recurring and deep manner. The Sensei always says that true intelligence does not produce absolute certainty. It delivers a more precise map of how much territory remains unexplored. The more deeply you understand the variables of a subject, the more clearly you can see everything you don't know. The Sensei notices that highly brilliant minds often hold their own output to a brutal standard, treating any gap between their ideal potential and their actual performance as evidence of a fundamental flaw. This constant doubt is not a sign of a lesser intelligence, but the very signature of a greater one. 6. A mind that never fully switches off. Those with a very high IQ share a common complaint with great disciples at the beginning of their meditative journey. The mind simply does not have an off switch. This internal whirlwind doesn't stop during rest, late at night, or even during activities that most people find relaxing. There is always a background process running at maximum speed, turning over an old conversation, breaking down a problem, building a theory, or running mental simulations for things that haven't even happened yet. The Sensei points out that this restless internal energy is a vibrant drive to think and process that lacks a natural off switch. In a highly intelligent mind, connectivity is much richer and deeply interlinked across distant regions of the brain, rather than just faster in isolated areas. This massive network causes one thought to pull another continuously. As the Sensei says, taming a mind that never stops is the first great battle of the intellectual warrior. 7. A quiet sense of not belonging. The final trait functions as the thread that ties all of the Sensei's teachings about the superior mind together. Highly intelligent people frequently report a quiet but persistent sense of not quite fitting into their social circles, professions, or the world at large. It is not a dramatic alienation, but a subtle, ongoing awareness of being slightly out of sync with the immediate environment. This displacement is the predictable result of experiencing reality at a much higher resolution than average. When your mind processes more data, connects distant concepts, feels more intensely, and requires a depth that daily life rarely offers, a mild sense of displacement becomes almost inevitable. The Sensei teaches us that walking a different path is part of the destiny of those who see the world in high definition. It alters completely what you notice, what you need, and what ordinary life is capable of giving you.
What makes all 7 of these characteristics described in the Sensei's Guide so fascinating is how consistently the outside world misreads them. The need for solitude is labeled as antisocial behavior. The mind that never stops is viewed merely as anxiety. Quiet observation is judged as a lack of interest, and existential self-doubt is mistaken for insecurity. But the master reminds us that what looks like a collection of everyday difficulties is in reality the price of a mind that was built to process more, connect more, and go much further than the environment demands. Having an extremely high IQ is not about hoarding facts or bragging about test scores. It is about carrying the world with very little filter between you and reality. And living at that intensity is one of the most challenging and profound journeys a person can experience. If the teachings of the Sensei's Guide made sense to you today, or if they gave a voice to feelings you have silently carried for a very long time, leave a comment sharing which of these traits resonated deepest with your own journey. The Sensei values your reflection, and I read every single comment. Take this opportunity to share this knowledge with someone who needs to understand that operating at a different frequency is not a mistake. It is simply the mark of an expanded mind. Do not forget to like the video to strengthen our digital space, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the Sensei's upcoming high-impact lessons. And if you want to keep decoding the mysteries of human behavior and expanding your perception, watch the next video appearing on your screen right now. Thank you so much for your company on today's journey. Keep your mind sharp. A big embrace from the Sensei, and see you next time.